Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to look at the ancient house theory, which is the whole sign house theory, or as my teacher calls it, the Hermes house system. And then we're also going to look at why is the house system that way, right? Understanding even what are the houses and why is each of the houses given the denotation that it's given. As much as we can, it makes sense to a certain degree, but yeah, you'll see the limitations and the possibilities here. So let's dive in, everybody. So here we've got, this is actually not where I want to start. We'll get there eventually, but not right now. So very simply, this is the ancient house system here, and you can see there's the joys of the planets in each of these houses. And yeah, we should probably try and understand that a bit better than we do, because I don't see anybody interpreting this properly. The joys of the house system. I literally have not seen a single person interpret it properly. So apart from my teacher. So the first house is obviously where we begin. What the heck actually is the first house, right? We should keep in mind that the houses are basically, they are real things because we observe their effects in astrology, right? But as far as this visualization is concerned, the houses are 100% theoretical. They're not real. So you can't go out into the sky and look up and be like, oh yeah, there's the line of the 12th house and the 11th house. And I'm sure most of you already understand that. So these are astronomical, it's not really phenomena, astronomical observations, something like that, something like that. Anyway, so what the first house is, or the ascendant is the horizon. And actually, it's much easier to show you this here. Whoops, I want the horizon. I don't want the strong sign, and I don't want the planets. Okay. So you can see here's the horizon in Leo. There's the ascendant, is this straight line. This curved line represents the actual real horizon. And this part is south. Underneath, so this yellow line is where the planets move along and where the zodiac is. And inside this yellow line is south. So this is the southeast horizon here, because the rising, the sun rises in the east. Everything rises in the east, right? So the ascendant, or the rising sign, is at the point exactly east. And everything that is sort of between due south and due east, or straight east, is in the southeast horizon. So it's actually all rising. Same for above this yellow line, above the ecliptic there. This is the northeast horizon there. Okay. So that's actually what the ascendant is. And the ascendant is the most important thing in everything ever. It's if the ascendant and the MC actually, but the ascendant is the most important. So the ascendant is the most important place ever. If you don't pay attention to the ascendant, you don't know anything about astrology, you don't know anything about the chart that you're looking at. It's as simple as that. The ascendant is so important. You can get a proxy ascendant if you don't know the time of birth by putting the moon on the ascendant. And that way the moon plays the role of herself, the moon, and is the ascendant, because she's the next most important point. So everything else, the meaning of all the other houses, is defined by its aspect to the ascendant. All right, so what does that mean? Because, so if you think about it, right, the ascendant is the place where the sun rises, where all of the planets rise, where they move out of being theoretical, abstract realities that there's no direct connection with, to being visible. So you can't see it, you go from not seeing it, it goes out of, it's symbolically moving out of ignorance into knowledge. right? It's moving out of, there's no Jupiter, and then it comes with the ascendant. You go, there is a Jupiter, right? So it's moving out of non-existence into existence as it crosses the ascendant. The ascendant is a doorway into our world. That's why the ascendant is so important, because that's where your soul jumps out of to enter your body at the moment of your first breath, right? So that's why the ascendant is so important. It's how beings, real beings, new beings, souls, archetypes, everything manifests itself in our world through the ascendant. It appears. And because the ascendant is so important, all the other houses are defined by their aspect to it. So the good houses, as you can imagine, have a good aspect with the ascendant. The fifth house has a trine to the ascendant. It's a very lucky house. As you see here, the fifth house is ruled by Venus, or has the joy of Venus is there, which is a very lucky planet. Venus is a lucky planet. If you have Venus rising, generally, it's going to be you're born into if it's Venus is rising at night, then you're born into a very wealthy family. The sun in the ninth house, well, the ninth house also has a trine with the ascendant, right? So there's this big triangle between the ninth, the first, and the fifth. And the ninth house is ruled by the sun. And the ninth house is a lucky house. It's a spiritual house, primarily. And it is good and it is powerful because of that trine to the ascendant. It's a powerful house. It's probably the least powerful of the powerful houses because it's cadent. It's falling away from the 10th. So the 10th house is here, very, very powerful, extremely powerful house, the 10th house. And because the ninth house is falling away from the angle, it's weakened. But because of the trine to the ascendant, it is still very strong as well, a very positive house. Then you've got the 11th house, which has a sextile to the ascendant, ruled by Jupiter, and it's a strong sextile. So it's well, actually, I don't, and this is where the limitations kind of come in. I don't fully understand why, because the 11th house is one of the best houses. The 11th house and the 5th, best houses in astrology, and you can see that, right? Ruled by Venus and Jupiter, the two best planets. So they're obviously the best houses. So yeah. And I don't know why the 11th house is quite so lucky, but it is obviously a good house because of this. Well, no, sorry, I do know why, actually. I lied. There is this good aspect, the sextile with the first house, with the ascendant, and the 11th house is going to become the 10th house, which is a very powerful house. Okay? So it has a good aspect with the ascendant, and it's becoming more powerful. Same with the 5th. That's why that's so lucky. It has a trine with the ascendant, very strong, good aspect, and it's becoming the 4th house. So to illustrate, what do I mean by that? The ascendant, as time moves forward, 2 hours at a time. Oh, if this wants to load. We'll go 1 hour at a time. 1, 2. Probably need to go 3 here because I was born in London. And so you can see there, Gemini, which was the 11th house, if we go back, Gemini was the 11th house. And as we go forward in time, a couple of hours, it becomes the 10th house. And Sagittarius, which was the 5th house, became the 4th house, okay? So that's why the 11th and the 5th are the best houses. They have a good aspect with the ascendant, and they're becoming angular. And then the 3rd house has a sextile with the ascendant as well. So she's actually, the 3rd house is probably the absolute weakest of the good houses. So the 9th house is sort of semi-weak, not that weak. It's still pretty strong and has a trine. The 3rd house is cadent, meaning that it's falling away from the 4th house, and has a sextile with the ascendant. So it has a good aspect, and it's falling. So it's a good house, but not super powerful, not super, super good. On the other hand, the houses that have no aspect with the ascendant, in other words, the 12th house, no aspect, the 6th house, no aspect, look at that. Mars and Saturn rule those houses. So these are the evil houses ruled by the evil stars, Mars and Saturn. And I swear to God, if I see somebody comment down below that there are not bad planets and not good planets, I'm going to find you and give you a fucking lecture, because there absolutely are good planets and bad planets. If somebody is born with a powerful Jupiter, they are born with a super lucky life, super easy life, silver spoon in their mouth. Yeah, they might be a little bit ostentatious, a little bit show-offy, but they generally receive all kinds of good fortune. If somebody's born with a really bad Saturn, they're going to have a fucking shit life. All right? So there absolutely are good and bad planets. What you make of them is up to you. But their influence is always either negative or positive. In terms of this realm, right? And if you go saying, well, yeah, it's all how you take it and it's actually good. Well, yeah, I mean, that's true, but that's true for everything. We're not just trying to make spiritual, vague statements. We're trying to do astrology here. We're trying to differentiate. We're trying to figure out what are the influences of each of the planets, all right? Cool. I hope that that's done. If I see any comments about this, I'm just going to send you to this video and have your ear bitten off. Anyway. So they have no aspect to the ascendant. So that's why the 12th house is linked with prison. It's linked with sickness, death, all kinds of misfortune, and what's the other thing? Disgraces, and secrets. Saturn rules secrets as well. The 6th house, obviously, diseases. So, if Jupiter is in the 6th house, is actually very unlucky. Anything that goes into the 12th or the 6th house is going to become unlucky. If Mars or Saturn, however, is in one of those houses, it's actually a good thing, because these are the weakest houses in terms of energy, how much energy they have. So if something really, really bad is happening in the 12th and the 6th house, that's good, because it means it has very, very weak energy. It's robbed of energy, which is a good thing. Whereas if something really, really bad is happening in the 4th and the 10th house, then that's horrendous, because it's really, really powerful. But if something really good is happening in the 12th or the 6th house, then it's not necessarily made evil, but it's just made very, very weak. Because these are, again, the weak houses. Why are they weak? They're falling away from the angles. So the 12th house is moving away from the 1st house. The 6th house is moving away from the 7th house. And they have no aspect with the ascendant. So these are the weakest houses, and that is why. Why the aspect with the ascendant? As I said before, the ascendant is how beings manifest themselves into our world. So if a planet is in the 9th house, it has a trine with the ascendant, which means that it can manifest itself through the aspect with the ascendant. However, if something is in the 12th house, it cannot manifest itself through the ascendant. So things in the 12th house are going to be very private and hidden. So I have Venus in the 12th house. I have a lot of hidden musical and artistic abilities that I don't really share with anybody. Right? They're very, very private. So the only people who know about it are the people who know me really well. Whereas, I have Jupiter and Saturn in the 10th house, so everybody, even the people who I barely know that I'm an astrologer, right? Because I have Jupiter. Well, it's all in the 9th house, but it's on the MC. I don't want to overstimulate your brains with all this craziness. So that's the 12th and the 6th. The 2nd and the 8th house have also no aspect with the ascendant, but they are becoming angular. So they're not as bad, or they're not as weak. They're not as bad and weak. And even the 2nd house, because it's becoming the ascendant, which is the most powerful house, the 2nd house, even though it has no aspect, is kind of neutral. It can even be good sometimes. Whereas the 8th house is pretty much always bad, because it's falling, even though it's becoming the 7th house, which is kind of interesting. Why are they called the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, blah, blah, blah? Because the ascendant is the most important part of the chart. It's where you look. When you're reading a chart, it's where you start. It's number 1, right? And then I don't know how they got the rest of these numbers. If I was to label the houses, based on the importance, it would be 1 is the, first house is number 1, the 10th house would be number 2, 7th house would be number 3, 4th house would be number 4, and so on. So there's some pretty basic stuff with the houses there. The joys, these planetary joys, so the sun and the moon are ruling there in the spiritual houses, which is the only thing we haven't talked about. Because, well, actually, I haven't even thought about this, really. The sun rules the 9th house because obviously it's above the horizon, it's in the daytime, and the moon rules the 3rd house because it's at nighttime. And probably because the moon and the sun are the symbols of the different kinds of light, the masculine and feminine expressions of light, which come through the 9th and the 3rd house, which is spirituality, right? We owe our existence to the spirit. So maybe it's not a super complete description yet, but it's good enough for me for now. And the Mercury rules the ascendant because the ascendant is decided by the moment of your first breath. And they said that the breath is what if you can't breathe, you can't speak. That's basically the idea. When you can, the breath precedes speech, which is ruled by Mercury. So that's why Mercury rules the 1st house. It's a little bit of well, it's not really a stretch if you think about it, but it's an interesting one to wrap your head around. So that's the 12 houses there. We're pretty much at the ending there. The only thing that I will mention is that the MC and the IC, as in my case, they are not always in the 4th house and the 10th house, whereas the ascendant and the descendant, they're always in the 1st and 7th house. And yes, I should have mentioned also the Hermes house system. I'll talk about that too. So for me, you can see there's the MC in the 9th house, which means that the 9th house takes on a lot of the qualities of the 10th house, and everything in the 9th house is made very, very powerful. Similarly with the 3rd house for me. And if that's in the 11th, then same for the 11th. And the themes of that house become very strong. So that's why my career is to be an astrologer, because I have the MC in the 9th house with Jupiter and Saturn there, which is a big marker of an astrologer. Now, why the Hermes house system? Actually, that's actually a huge topic. We will have to talk about that another time. And I'm lagging like crazy. Wow, don't know how that happened. Oh, I think I do. Anyway, so that is a topic for another time. I hope that this has been helpful. And if you want to explore more about this ancient astrology, I have a new course that's just out now. You can check it out. The link will be in the description. It's only $10, and it's the Moon Mastery course. So all the questions that you have about the moon will be answered there for the most part. It is not as extensive as I would like. Extensive on the moon would be probably 10 hours. This is an hour and a half. It's 2 hours, actually. And yes, all of the questions will be answered there. So I hope this has been helpful. Sorry about the lag. I'll see you in the next one.